Yeah, it's coming in. You got your beer already. Sharing? Not very many, huh? Wow. Yeah, my youngest brother and my youngest nephew are here, and they didn't get one yet either. The gospel says perseverance, so it pays off eventually, right? So, and that goes to all things in life. Perseverance. That's the key word today. We come to the last Sunday of ordinary time today. And of course, that's the time when we're looking at final judgment. There will be judgment for all of us in our lives and how we lived and how we responded to the gospel. So as we come to that end, we see each of the readings today basically talk about perseverance, if you will, and how quickly, it can be lost, how quickly we can lose what we do have. You look at that first reading, Malachi, and you see what happens. That was about 500 years before Jesus. Before that, the Jews had been taken into Babylonian captivity for 70 years, and then they were allowed to go back to Jerusalem. The temple had been destroyed, and they rebuilt the temple. And then, believe it or not, within 50 years, here comes Malachi chastising the people because they had already forgotten who they were and what they were about. I mean, the first generation, busy about building the temple. Yes, God delivered us, and how wonderful God is. The second generation, kind of remember what Mom and Dad talked about. The third generation, not so much. That's not important. What's God got to do with our lives now anyway? Sound familiar? Yeah, that's human history. Again, and again, and again, and again. So it sounds familiar when you hear Jesus now in the gospel. He's addressing this temple. Again, this temple is going to be torn down. It's even more beautiful than the first one. And of course, it's already happened. When Luke wrote this, it had already happened. We find not just a destruction as far as the Jews are concerned, but it's a destruction for the Christians. Because the early Christians thought themselves as Jews. We're just another group of believers, a little bit different than some, but there's diversity among Jews. And so it was a major, major thing. But Luke coaches it in terms of the apostles themselves questioning, Lord, when is this going to happen? Any of you have teenager kids at home and you ever take a night out? Mom, what time are you going to be home? Are you going to be gone a couple days? It's like, there's trouble. If you hear that kind of thought, huh? We want to know, well, we better have the house cleaned up and ready. And so it is with the apostles. Now, they're just like that. Lord, when is this going to happen? In other words, if we knew when it was going to happen, we'd really start concentrating then. But no, not a matter of knowing when. It's a matter of day by day by day by day. Perseverance in this relationship that we have with the Lord. And the same thing with Paul in that second reading. Again, this is within 2 generations. Paul, after the resurrection, Paul's got all these kind of converts, and now already within a short time, what's happening? Well, they're sitting back and said, didn't you say that he's coming back soon again? We don't need to make a living. We don't need to work. We don't need to worry about anything. Wrong message. Wrong message. The thing is, you better be living your life day by day by day in the way God wants you to. So each one of them are a challenge to us in that regard. And in some ways, today as we looked at Veterans Day this past week, we honored the vets, and what do we think about? We think of what's the price of freedom? Eternal vigilance, right? What's the price of faith in our families, in our life? Eternal vigilance. It's no different. And so we looked at how you and I are called to persevere in that gift of faith. And I really think, in so many ways, our present moment historically is a significant moment in our American history, on both levels, if you will. What do we see happen? To me, it's by God's grace that, if you will, the election went the way it did. If my lifetime is ever going to see the end of abortion, this had better be it, right shortly. Huh? So there's great hope for that. But guess what? Then you and I say, we did our part. I went to the polls. I voted. And I can forget about it now? No. Eternal vigilance. That you and I know that we must day by day by day work at what we really hold as a value. And what are those values? Certainly the Constitution, we want to see that upheld. The right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for all human beings, born and unborn. The values of family life, which is being so terribly challenged today. The value of freedom of conscience, which now has a chance of being protected by even stronger laws. So we're looking at some very basic values being challenged, and yet there is hope. There's hope, and there is also persecution. There's also a challenge to that. Probably some of you have already run into it. I got a niece, the only one that has a doctorate in my family, apparently been disowned by one of her aunts, the other side of the family. It's still a cousin. Why? Because she voted for Trump. Can you believe that kind of dissension within good Christian Catholic families? Like, what is this? What is this? You know, what we're seeing is a cycle again, which some says is really a cycle of personalism, or the idea that everybody can have what they want, and everybody needs to be tolerant, unless you have to be conservative. Yeah, you can be tolerant of everything there is except for people who want to uphold the values of faith, family, and life. You know? Otherwise, you can be tolerant of anything. Otherwise, you see it results in terms of ongoing, really, rallies and destruction. Because I don't get what I want when I want it. You and I know, as followers of Christ, that really is a peaceful way of working towards what is needed. And we cannot stop. We cannot stop. Today, as we come to the end of this church year, I challenge you to realize within your own lives that our country cannot become what we want it to be, first of all, without God. That can't happen. No country can survive without God truly being part of it. Our country was founded on that. Our lives were founded on that. And so we need to continue very strongly in our prayer, especially the rosary, attending Mass. And we need to constantly, if you will, participate as American citizens in the processes that are there. We need to participate, which means it might look good right now, but you still got to hold their feet to the fire. It might be good, but just like with your own children, you know what happens if you ignore? You got to say, keep your eyes open, and that's part of it. Part of it. Today, let's celebrate this great moment in our American history, but let us celebrate it with the awareness of today's gospel, calling us to perseverance. Perseverance in prayer, perseverance in faith, perseverance in, as he says, giving testimony to what you and I know is truly important. Today is also an opportunity for, next week will be a special collection for Catholic charities within our diocese. We have a short video. You know, when you see a screen up there, you know it's about money, right? So it's a really short one. So we have a short video now